Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode. Good Tov, everybody. Welcome to another edition of our Parashat Shavua class. We are studying tonight Parashat Shofetim, not to be confused with Sefer Shoftim, which is one of the books of Tanakh, which follows the book of Yoshua. Parashat Shoftim is one of the parashiot we have in Sefer Devarim. There are wonderful mitzvot in this week's parasha, and lots to discuss, and some great, amazing ideas that can help us prepare for the upcoming Yamim Noraim, the upcoming high holidays, which are very, very close. We are less than 1 month away. This past week we welcomed in Chodesh Elul, so we are just over 3 weeks away from Rosh Hashanah, Yom Hadin. One of the mitzvot that we find in this week's parasha is the mitzvah of Milchemet HaReshut, when the Jewish people enter a war with a country to fight your battles, and Hashem will save you and protect you. Rashi here says that there are 4 leshonot, there are 4 expressions of not to fear. We have Al yerach levavchem, don't be faint of heart, al tireu ve'al tachbezu ve'al ta'atzu. And he says that these 4 expressions, these 4 warnings, are keneged arba'at devarim shemalchei ha'umot osim. 4 things that the nations of the world might do to scare off an enemy. Magifim betrisehem, they bang and clash their shields. Kedei lashmi'a kol, to make this grand noise. Ve'yanusus, that people will run away. V'romsim esusehem, you have they make their horses neigh loudly. Umatzilin otam. Also, lashmi'a kol, they start yelling. V'tzavachim bekolam. So therefore, al yerach levavchem, don't be faint of heart. Is mitzalot asusim, from the neighing of the horses. Al tireu, don't fear. Me'agafat hatrisin, from the banging of the shield. Al tachpezu, don't be alarmed. Mikol hakranot, from the sound of the horns. Al ta'arzu, and don't be terrified. Mikol hasevacha, from all the yelling that's going on. It's one of the mitzvot that we have in the Torah. Right after this mitzvah, just a few lines later, is another mitzvah that we have, which is called the mitzvah of Egla Arufa. Egla Arufa is when a person encounters, has v'shalom, a deceased person on the road. Torah tells us, Ki matzeh halal ba'adama, you find a corpse on the road that is nofel basadeh lo noda mikal, we don't know who struck this person, we don't know who killed this person. V'yatzu zekenecha v'shoftecha, the elders and the judges will go out. They start measuring which is the closest city to this deceased person. And when they determine which city is indeed the closest, they take a very young calf, Asher lo ubad ba, that it was never worked. Asher lo mashcha be'ol, that never carried any load. Ve'oridu ziknei ha'ir hahi et ha'egla nachal eitan. They bring it down to nachal eitan. Asher lo yaved bo ve'lo yizarea, an area which has not been plowed and worked on. Ve'arefu sham et ha'egla b'nachal. And there they decapitate the head of the, they break the neck of the calf, and they kill the calf in that spot as a kapara for the person that died on the road. The Mefarshim ask a question: what exactly is the connection between the first parasha, the first mitzvah that I taught you tonight, which is the mitzvah of not to be afraid from the enemy who are out there making a lot of noise, and this parasha of Egla Arufa, the decapitation of the calf as an atonement for the person that passed away? What exactly is the connection over here? Why the Torah juxtaposes these two? The Sefer called Sukkot David, he writes an amazing chidush. He says, naturally speaking, when a person goes out to war, he sees many, many deaths. He encounters blood everywhere. People getting murdered, people getting killed, all in the name of battle, all in the name of war. And as a result of that, a person becomes immune to the blood. He becomes used to the fact that there's dead bodies. And the value of life, the value of a person's goof becomes diminished in his eyes because I just see so much of it. It's all around me. Therefore, the Torah tells us you can't think like that. As much as you go to war and as much as you're going to fight and you're going to protect your land and drive out enemies and kill people and see blood spilled everywhere, and it's a horrific sight, you can't lose the notion, the fact that our bodies are precious and there is a value to human life. To so much so that if you're walking on the road and you see a dead person on the road right there, no, you don't know where this person came from, you don't walk away. Yes, the same soldier that just finished a war, that probably with your own bare hands killed dozens of people, but you see a soul on the side of the road, a Jewish soul on the side of the road, and you don't know who struck him and he's dead, you have an obligation right there and then to bury him in that spot, because the body of a person is extremely holy, and a person cannot use his prior stories and happenings and occurrences and fighting and whatnot to diminish the value of this person right here. And therefore, we bury him right there and we give him the proper respect. And hence the Torah chose to juxtapose these two parashiot together. But in fact, there is one parasha in between these two. There's one parasha meddled right smack in between the parasha of going to war and the parasha of the Egla Arufa. The Torah tells us, Ki tatzur el ir yamim rabim, leilachem alea letofsa. When you go to besiege a city for many days, to capture the city, lo tashchit et aitzah lindoach alav garzen. You shall not destroy the trees by swinging an axe. Ki mimenu tochel, because from that tree you shall eat. Ve'oto lo tichrot, and you cannot cut it down. Ki adam etz hasadeh labo mipanecha b'matzor, for his man, the tree of a field that you come to besiege. Rak etz asher teda ki lo etz ma'achal hu, but only with regards to a tree that you know is not a fruit tree, does not produce any fruit. Oto tashchit vecharata, that is a tree that you are permitted to cut down. Ubanita matzor al ha'ir, you will build bulwarks on the city. Asher yosai necha milchama arita, and continue with its war until the city's submission. Why did the Torah prohibit the cutting down of trees in a milchemet reshut? What's the purpose of it? So a very simple answer is the reason why you are conquering a city is to enjoy the city, is to have benefit from the city. And therefore, why in the world are you destroying the trees for? You've captured the city, make use of everything that the city contains, don't cut down fruit trees. So therefore, on a very simple shot level, this is the reason why the Torah tells us do not cut down the fruit tree when you enter the city. But more than that, it's not just that you're not allowed to cut down and raise a fruit tree, but it's also the Chachamim tell us you can't do anything to prevent the future growth of that tree. I can't even block and dam water supply to the tree that will prevent the tree from growing more. The Sifri Midrash says, Lo tashchit etzal indoa halav, that you cannot cut down a tree with an axe. En li ela garzen, I don't know with an axe. Af limshoch haimena amat hamayim. How do I know that even stopping water from going to the tree, that is prohibited? Lo tashchit et etzah bekol davar, ki adam etz hasadeh. To teach me that the concept of the tree is to produce, and if I stop something from producing, from getting it to produce, then I am transgressing this mitzvah. And the Rambam goes to length discussing how evil this avera is, and he says in his halachot, in Hilchot Melachim, En kotzetzin ilane ma'achal shechutz hamdina, you're not allowed to cut a fruit tree that is outside the province, and mon'in mehem amat hamayim kedei yifshu, you cannot stop the water supply in order that this tree become dry. V'kol hakotzetz lokeh, and anybody who does so receives malkut, he receives lashes. And then he continues and he says, you should know something. V'lo ha'ilanot bilvad. It's not just the trees that you're not allowed to cut down. Ela kol ha'meshaber kelim. Anybody that breaks utensils and he breaks vessels, the korea begadim, and he rips clothing, ve'ores binyan, or he destroys a home, the sotem ma'anyan, or plugs up a fountain, u'ma'abed machalot derech hashchata, and throws food away to destroy, over belo tashchit, he transgresses a mitzvah of bal tashchit, ve'eno lokeh ela makat mardut midivrehem, but he receives rabbinical lashes, not Torah lashes. It's not as severe as kind of a fruit tree, but it's still, you receive mardut, makat mardut. How dare you rip your clothing for no reason? Because you don't like it, you rip it. Or you don't like this glass anymore, you throw it in the garbage. It's bal tashchit. Who gives that? Gives that to you as a gift. Who are you to destroy? Says the Shach. Another reason, according to Rekanati, deeper reason. Amar Rabbi Simon, en lecha kol esev va'esev. There is not one blade of grass she'en lo mazal barakia she'makeh oto, that doesn't have a specific mazal, a specific luck to it. Ve'omer lo gedal, that luck, that direction tells that blade of grass, I want you to grow. You are, every single blade of grass is sent a message like waves right to it so that it could grow. And therefore, when you destroy the tree or the grass or whatever it is, you are stopping the innate koach, the innate strength and power of that blade of grass. And that's why you can't do it. Because it produces goodness, it produces air, it produces fruit, whatever it is. How can you do that? The Midrash tells us in Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer that there are 6 voices that go, the voice, the noise and sound travels from one end of the world to the other, but you can't hear them. And that's not a good thing. And one of the voices that are there, that travels but you can't hear, is B'sha'ah shekortin et etz ha'ilan shehu oseh peri. When you cut down a tree, a fruit tree, and you cut it down for no reason, there's a yell, there's a scream, there's a cry that travels the whole world, and no one can hear it. Hakol yotzeh misof ha'olam ve'asofo ve'en hakol nishma. Another example of a voice that travels the whole world and no one can hear it. B'sha'ah she'haneshama yotzet min haguf. The neshama leaves the body. Hakol yotzeh misof ha'olam ve'en hakol nishma. But you can't hear that voice. Don't kill. Don't cut unless you know that nothing is going to come out of it. The Torah tells us only when you know that the tree is not a fruit tree, when you know that it's not going to produce something, that's when you can cut down that tree. Otherwise, you have no permission to do so. Doing so is tantamount like removing a soul from a body. It has a voice that is traveling, but no one can hear it. It's murdering a body. It's murdering a tree that's producing fruit, the sustenance for the world. Where do we see such an idea? We actually see this in Sefer Shemot, way back in Sefer Shemot. When Moshe Rabbeinu leaves Paro's house and he's going around and seeing all the troubles and suffering that his people are going through. The Torah says, "Vayhi bayamim hahem," and it wasn't those days. Vayigdal Moshe vayitze lechav. Moshe grows up and he goes to see his friends, his brothers, the Jewish people. Vayar b'sivotam, and he says, "Oh my goodness, look what's happening to them." Vayar ish misri makei shivri mehav, and he sees an Egyptian man who is striking his brother, a Jewish brother. Vayifen kol bacho, he looked this way and that way. Vayar ki anish, and he saw that there was no man. Vayach et hamitzri vayitmeneu bachol. He struck, he killed the Egyptian, and he buried him in the sand. Rashi says, what does it mean vayar ki anish? I mean, he saw that there was no man. On a very simple level, he wanted to make sure that no one was looking. But Moshe Rabbeinu was from Paro's house. He didn't really care. Could have done whatever, who's going to arrest him? He's from Paro's house. So look what Rashi says. He saw in the future that nobody from that man, from that Egyptian, no one would come from him that would convert to be a Jew. And therefore, there was nothing of benefit that was going to be produced from this man. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu felt that it was okay to kill him in that situation. Of course, he killed him with the name of Hashem. So we see that when you are something that lacks production, it's okay to cut down. But if you have the opportunity to produce, to give off, whether it's fruit or it's something of yourself, asur to do so. Only when you have no business whatsoever giving, in that case, you're okay to get cut down. The Gemara asks a question. And we see this connection very clearly in the Pasuk. Ki adam etz hasadeh. The man is compared to a tree. The Gemara asks, wait a second. V'chi adam etz hasadehu? Is a man actually a tree? Man, it's not a tree. We're human beings. We walk around. Trees don't walk around. We talk. Trees don't talk. So what is the Torah doing comparing man to a tree? So therefore, the Gemara tells us, Im tamid chacham hagunhu mimenu tochal ve'oto lo tichrot. If you're dealing with a Talmid Chacham who is respected and proper, then tochal oto, you can eat from it. Don't cut it down. You're not allowed to cut it down. Ve'im lav oto tashchit v'charata. But if not, if it's a Talmid Chacham that is not proper, then oto tashchit v'charata, you cut it down. What does that mean? The mitzvah now, what is the Gemara talking about? I have a mitzvah now, I can cut down the Talmid Chacham who's not proper. You're just going to destroy him. So Rashi says, just stay away from him. That's the meaning of v'charata. Tichrot v'charata is meaning you have an obligation not to learn from him, but just stay away. If he's not hagun, he pretends to be a Talmid Chacham or whatnot, just stay away from him. Ki adam etz hasadeh. And we see in many places the whole concept of Adam very much connected to a tree. In one way, we have our arms branch out like a tree. The Torah, the Gemara actually continues in that same place. Masechet Ta'anit. Lama nimshalu divrei Torah ke'etz. Why do the words of the Torah compare to a tree? Shneimar etz chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomcha meushar. Loma lecha, to teach you. You want to know why the Torah is compared to a tree? Ma etz katan madlik et agadol. Just like a small little piece of wood, small match, can light a very large tree. So too, the young, the small Talmidei Chachamim can sharpen the great ones. As Rabbi Chanina was famous to say that he learned most from his students than his colleagues or even his teachers. But Bezat Hashem, I want to get into the main topic tonight, which is this idea of living for the purpose of giving. Rav Chaim Volozhin, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, he writes in his Sefer Nefesh HaChaim, arguably one of the most famous written works in the last 500-600 years. And he says, Ko haya dibro elai tamid. His Rav would tell him constantly, Sheze kol ha'adam lo le'atzmo nivra, that man was not created for himself, for his own purpose. Rak leho'il la'acharini. The whole purpose of man's creation was to help and to assist other people, to give. Whatever he is capable of doing. I want you to think about human beings from the moment they're born. From the moment they're born, they have absolutely zero abilities. They cannot do anything without their parents. They can't walk, they can't stand, they can't even, it's difficult for them to eat. Everything needs to be spoon fed, not literally, of course, but it has to be total reliance on their parents to do so. And it doesn't stop at an infant. Even as a child, 1 years old, still can't walk, barely learning to walk. Parents are holding their arms. Everything is a step by step process. You get into adulthood, or before that, teenage, I don't know, decisions, advice. There's always someone that is helping another human being get around and survive, which we don't see in any way or form with regards to the animals. Think about a cat. A cat is born, and a cat, from the moment it's born, just roams freely. It starts walking on its fours. It really doesn't need its mom. It's all good. And then the cat can eat whatever it wants. It doesn't have to worry about what is good to eat, what is healthy, when is breakfast, lunch, or dinner. One day they go eat from this garbage can. Another day they eat from this garbage can. Another day they go find something by the sewer. The cat never gets sick. The cat is perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about this disease or this recall. The cats are roaming up and down the roads nonstop. Cats don't get hit. Cats don't get injured. Cats have 9 lives, they say. And human beings, you hear it. What's going on over here? Oh, hold my hand. Oh, this. Don't you can't cross the street. This. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu have to do this? No, cats don't have to worry about shidduchim. Cats don't have to worry about who they're going to marry. They find their partner behind the other garbage can. They mate. They have more cats. And human beings, it's such a stress. Who am I going to marry? When am I going to find my right person? I found my right person. How do I know if it's the right time to have children? Why not Kadosh Baruch Hu had to create man like this? Why couldn't it be so much easier? Why couldn't it be just like the animal world? Like the cats. Eat whatever you want. Go wherever you want. You'll find a shidduch in 2 seconds. You'll have children. Many hundreds of children. Why did God do it like this? And the answer, says the Saba Mikelim, is in order to ingrain in our minds that man was created in order to give. Man was not created in order to receive. And we see this in many places in the Torah. Whenever there is lack of giving, is as if kilu, the person's not alive, or the thing is not alive. I'm going to provide you with a few examples. Right from the beginning of the Torah, where Adam HaRishon is cursed as a result of eating from the Etz Hadat. The Torah tells us that Arura ha'adama ba'avurecha be'itzavon tochalena kol yemei chayecha, that the land shall be cursed because of you. With sadness and tears you shall eat all the days of your life. And Rashi says, what does it mean that the land will be cursed? Rashi says, Ta'aleh lecha devarim arurim, things that will sprout from the land will be cursed. Kegon zvuvim, like flies, paroshim, nemalim, ants, mosquitoes, all these things that come and stem from the earth, that come from the earth. It's cursed. So here's a question I have for you. Here's a question. Arura adama, is the land really cursed? Does the land have any feelings? Who cares? You think the land cares what it produces? Whether it's nemalim or paroshim? What does the Torah mean that the land is cursed? Says the Saba Mikelim, that's exactly the yesod here. That if the land wants to give goodness, if the land wants to give fruit and vegetables without mosquitoes and flies and ants and rodents ruining it, and it's not able to give what it wants, it's mekulelet. The land is cursed. Because that's not what it wants to give. Another proof. The Gemara tells us in Masechet Sukkah in the name of Rabbi Meir Baal Hanes, Kozman shemeorot lokin siman ra lesonein shel Yisrael. As long, any time that the heavenly lights, in reference to the sun and the moon, are eclipsed, where you cannot see, they're being covered, it's a bad sign for the Jewish people. Again, Meorot Lokim, this is something where you mean to tell me that the heavenly lights are bringing danger, are causing difficult times for the Jewish people. Why? Because they're eclipsed. The sun and the moon are still there. You just can't see them. So why exactly is this a problem? The sun and the moon don't think for themselves. Again, says the Saba Mikelim, because they don't have the koach and the power to give at that moment what it's meant to give, because they're covered. Then yes, the Kuyim, they are stricken. They are stricken, and that brings us a problem for the Jewish people. It has a direct effect for Am Yisrael, because they want to give. The sun wants to produce the heat and give the heat out, but it's being blocked. And now that it can't give, lakui. And the Jewish people need to be worried of that. And the third proof, the time of Yosef HaSadiq, when Yosef was second in command in Misraim and there was no food. There was a huge hunger going on in the land. And the Egyptians come up to Yosef and they said, Lama namut le'enecha? Why shall we die in front of you? Gam anachnu, gam admatenu, ourselves and our land. Keneh otan ve'admatenu balachem. Buy us and our land with bread. V'niyeh anachnu ve'admatenu avadim lefaron. We will be slaves. Again, the same question. What do you mean? Why shall we and our land die? Land can die? What did the Egyptians mean when they said, we and our land are going to die here in front of you? Land doesn't die. They didn't live in, maybe Egypt has lots of desert, but where they lived, they were growing things. So the land doesn't die. So what exactly do they mean? And again, the same idea. If the land is not able to give what it's able to give, it's considered dead. Rabotai, the Gemara tells us that there are 4 individuals, Hashuvim Kemet, that are considered as if they're dead. An Ani, a poor person, a Suma, a blind person, a Metzora, one who's stricken with Tarat, leprosy, Umisha En Lo Banim, and one who does not have any children. Says Rav Chaim Shmulevitz over here, what does this mean? Why did the Gemara specifically choose these 4 people? You're going to tell me a poor person because he doesn't have any money and he's not happy? There are a lot of rich people who have lots of money and are not happy. Probably less happy than the poor person. There's a lot worse diseases than the Metzorah, than the Tzarat. So what exactly is going on over here that the Gemara chose these 4 individuals as considered kemetim, are like dead? The blind person, the fact that he cannot see means that he cannot empathize with his brother's problems and his family or whoever it is and their sufferings. The lack of ability to see means that they can't. There's no connection, and when there's no connection, then you can't give. When Moshe Rabbeinu went out, again, the pasuk we quoted before, Vayidal Moshe vayetze lecha vayar besivlotam. Moshe Rabbeinu went out and he saw the affliction. He could have heard it from a million people. If Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't able to see, but he didn't. But he heard it. It's not the same. It's not the same when you can't see. But Moshe Rabbeinu is seeing his people being beaten to death. That made an impact on him, and it caused his heart to connect with them. I gotta do something. I gotta do something. At the end of Yaakov Avinu's life, the Torah tells us, "Ve'enei Yisrael kavedu mizokem lo yuchal lirot." His eyes became heavy; he couldn't see. Vayagesh otam elav vayishak lahem vaychabek lahem. So he brought them close and he hugged them and he kissed them, his children and grandchildren. Why did he do so? Because the fact that he had no vision and no sight, the only way he could really connect them was through touch. And therefore, when a person cannot see, he cannot see what others need. And when he doesn't see what others need, he cannot give. And that's why he's considered dead, because he can't give. He doesn't have that feeling. When a person doesn't have a child, he lacks the ability to give. But what do you mean? I have my friends. No. No, there's a story, the beginning of Sefer Melachim, a very famous story about a woman who had a child and a woman who accidentally killed her child. during her sleep. And she went and she stole the child, the live child, from the person sleeping next to her. And the mother of the live child, who had her son stolen from her, went to Shlomo HaMelech, and it was a big, big court case. And eventually Shlomo HaMelech said, well, cut the baby in half, until the real mother started screaming, no, 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 please, 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 give it to her. And then he realized that was a real mother. But think about, what is this concept of stealing a child? The fake mother knows it's not her son. So why does she have to, what's the whole purpose of it? The answer is because in the son's vantage point, in his eyes, this person is giving me, he's giving me, he's giving me. This mom, this mother of mine is giving me, and he doesn't know the difference. To the fake mom, it was all about giving. Because if I don't have a child, then what's my purpose? If I can't give to somebody else everything that I have, what is the parent's purpose? To give everything to their children, to make sure that their children grow up in a proper way, Torah and mitzvot, proper derech eretz, to give. The purpose of a fruit tree is not just for itself, but it's to give. And if there is no fruits that are given off, then indeed you cut it down. The poor person, misken, doesn't have what to give. He doesn't have the money to give. He wants to, he may want to, but he doesn't have it. So all these situations, the ani, the person has no child, the blind person, the metzorah, the metzorah is secluded. The metzorah is in isolation. How can that person or he or her go and give to society? They're considered met. They're considered dead. And therefore the purpose of our life is to give. And the moment we stop giving, or the moment we decide we don't want to give anymore, there's no purpose to living. And to that the Torah says, Otot tichrot vecharata. Go and cut down that tree. Cut down that tree that has no purpose, has no fruit. Get rid of it. Go burn it in a fire. Use it as firewood in your cottage. But the tree that gives is etz ma'achal. Asur to cut down. You know, there's a story brought down in the Midrash Tanhuma. The Midrash in Parashat Kedoshim talks about why Hashem hides the day of death from a person. Why don't we know when we're going to die? And the Midrash says, because if Hashem would tell us when we would die, then a person would neither build or plant. Because he's going to say, what's the point of me planting? What's the point of me building if I'm going to die next week, or I'm going to die in a month, or whatever? So why should I persist in toiling for the sake of other people? Kadosh Baruch Hu hid death from the hearts of human beings. And if he's so that he would build and he would plant. And if he's worthy, it will be for himself. And if he's unworthy, then at least it'll be for other people. Listen to the story that the Midrash states. A story about Adrianus, Hadrian. He was going to war, and he was traveling with his troops to fight a certain country for having rebelled against him. And as he was fighting, he saw an old man who was planting a fig tree, young saplings, fig trees. And Hadrian said, "What are you doing? You're an old man. You're taking all this time to plant a fig tree for who? For others?" And he told Hadrian, he goes, "My lord, the king, I'm planting. If I'm worthy, then I will eat from the tree. But if not, then my children and my grandchildren will eat from the tree." 3 years Hadrian spent fighting this war. And after 3 years, he returned. And what did the old man do who was still alive? He took a basket filled with figs, and he came close to Hadrianus, Hadrian, and he said to him, "My lord, you asked me, you are an old man, why are you taking the trouble to toil for other people? Look what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for me. He brought fruit to my trees. This fruit is your portion, it's for you." So Hadrian couldn't believe his eyes, and he told his servants, "I want you to go take those figs. I want you to put them aside, empty it from the basket, and fill the basket with gold coins." And that's what they did. He took the basket of gold coins. He went back to the house and boasting to his wife and children what happened. Who was listening, watching what was going on? One of the neighbors of this old man who saw this. And she looks at her husband and says, "You come on. Right now. Go take a basket of figs. Go right to Adrianus. I want you to go to Hadrian right now and go give him the figs as a gift. And he's going to take out the figs. He's going to give you gold coins. Do it, do it, do it. They just did it to our neighbor. Go. So he takes a basket. The neighbor takes a basket of figs and he goes to Hadrianus. And Lozi goes, "This is for my lord the king. This is for you. I heard you love fruit and I came to honor you with figs and apples and other fruit." Adrianus looks at the fruit. He looks at him and he tells the servants, "Take these fruits and throw them in his face." And they started pelting him with figs and apples. And they hit him on his face until his face swelled up. And he went home crying in tears, bruised up from all the smacks of apples he got over his face. And the wife sees her husband, the neighbor sees her husband all bruised up and swollen, beaten, and said, "What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? What happened to you?" And he said to her, "I listened to you, and I went to honor with a gift, and he hit me on the face. If I would have put more fruit in my basket, he would have hit me with the harder fruit as well." And the Midrash says, what's the purpose of this Midrash? One answer is, Midrash says sometimes we shouldn't listen to what the evil women who want to destroy their husbands with their advice. And the other lesson is that you should not cease from planting. That no matter what age you are, if you have what to give, to give. One of the questions is, what's the purpose of this story? The Midrash just wants to tell us a story of Adrianus and these two old men. Neighbor, one guy brings figs, the other guy brings figs, one guy gets gold, the other guy doesn't get gold, he gets smacks on the head with his apples and figs. What's happening over here? So it says R Baruch Rozenblum, who today's shiur is really from him. And he says an unbelievable chidush. And he says that this midrash, he feels, is connected to Chodesh Elul, the days of introspection, and the days of Teshuvah. And he says, Adrianus HaMelech, the Nimshal is Melech Macham Melachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's Hashem. And the two neighbors are two types of people. A person who plants and sows and reaps for others, and the other one is just for himself. Hashem goes and asks a person, "Who are you planting for?" That's what Hadrian asked the first guy. "Who are you planting for? You're so old. Is there even a reason, a purpose for all this hard work?" What did the guy answer? Im lo eske, az habayim acharei yesku, says the Midrash. If I'm not going to be worthy, at least the people come after me will be worthy. My children, my grandchildren. He wants to give. And what is he zochet to? He's zochet to long life. He's zochet to long life as a result. That was a gift he got. He got to live out 3 years and more with gold coins. If you want to give, look at what your reward is waiting for you. And on the other hand, the second guy who did it for himself, who had no intent on planting trees for other people, just so that he can bring the fig, so that he can get the gold coins in return, what happens to him? Take the figs, take the apples, and pelt him on the head till he's all bruised up and beaten. What is the secret to life? What is the secret potion that gives us life? To give to others, whether it's a little bit or a lot. You want to give, ten lacharim, ki ha'adam etz hasadeh, for man is but a tree. That's who we are. The tree's always giving. A fruit tree's always giving fruit every single year. And that tree, oto lo tichrot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you cannot cut it down. Because the person that gives, it's asur to cut him down. Rak etz asher teda ki lo etz ma'achalhu, only a tree that you know for sure is not a fruit tree. A person who you know will not give and not give anything to society and not benefit to his community. That oto tashchit vecharata. That's the tree that you cut down. Why? Because he's living only for himself. He's not living for anybody else. Rabotai, we are just over 3 weeks away from Rosh Hashanah. where we are going to pronounce loud and clear, Zochrenu lechayim, melech chafetz b'chayim, kotvenu besefer chayim lema'anach Elohim chayim. Hashem, remember us for life, a king who desires life. Write us in the book of life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to ask us one simple question. Why do you need life? You're asking for life. Why do you need life? What are you going to do with that life? Are you going to care and worry only for yourself? Or are you going to care for other people? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to look at your past year, and he's going to see the type of person that you were, that you indeed did care and worry for others, that you were there when that person was sick, that you were there when that person was sitting Shiva, that you were there when that person was low on cash. That's a reason to give you life. Ki ha'adam lo le'atzmo nivra. Rav Chaim Mivolozhin says, man was not created for himself, for his own purpose, for his own wants, rak le'oli la'acharine, but rather just to help other people. If that's the case, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will indeed bless us with long life and reward. Gold coins, but spiritual gold coins, not physical gold coins. Maybe, hopefully, physical gold coins as well. We need to prove to HaKadosh Baruch Hu during these 3 weeks that we are ready to give. And if we've given already in the past, we will give more. And if you haven't given much in the past, now is your opportunity. Whether it's through money, whether it's through Torah, whether it's through morals or advice or good deeds or a phone call. There is not lacking what to give. And Bezat Hashem, with that, we will be a very, very strong tree. We will have strong roots. We will have a strong trunk. We will have a strong bark. We will have a strong branches and strong leaves. And that tree will continue to give and continue to produce. And no one is going to touch us. Because Hashem tells us, Oto lo tichrot. That's something that I want in my world. And I want it here for a very long time. Because we continue to give. Wishing everyone a wonderful night.